Well, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Law of Relevancy podcast. I'm Cord Zoen, your host. I'm the CEO of Bake More Pies, a Tampa-based full-service advertising agency. Every week, we talk to leaders within the marketing and communications world about what's going on in their organizations. Today, we're joined by Ashley Keys. She's the Director of Public Relations with the Boys and Girls Clubs of America. That's the big organization. We're talking about 4,700 clubs and 4.6 million kids in those clubs. Ashley, welcome to the Law of Relevancy.
Hi, thank you for having me.
We're super excited to talk with you, not only because we are huge fans of the Boys and Girls Club and we love supporting the local chapter here in Tampa Bay, but just the mission that the Boys and Girls Clubs has been doing over the years, we just feel like it's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Boys and Girls Clubs is a safe place for kids and teens to both learn and grow. We offer high quality programming that promotes academic success, promotes health and wellness, healthy lifestyles, and then also a place for kids to build their leadership skills. We want them to have a plan for their future after they graduate high school, whether that's join the military, go directly in the workforce. We are here to give kids what they need so that they can be successful and have a great future.
Yeah, when I learned that about the Boys and Girls Club, I was super impressed because I think that's one of the things that I enjoyed most about hanging out with my grandfather when I was growing up is he would take me to like different businesses and he would walk in and say, "Hey, do you mind if I show my grandson how you guys make this?" And he'd walk me back there and a lot of times these kids they don't have that opportunity.
Yeah, we try to give our kids experiences that they may not experience in other areas due to the circumstances that they may have been raised in or born into. So, everything from field trips to career exploration, also guest speakers. We have programs that focus on money matters. So, making sure that they know how to manage their money once they start having jobs and getting careers. And then also, I'm sure you all are familiar with our celebrity alumni and our sports partnership. So, we try to give kids experiences to NASCAR races, NBA games, or meeting some of our celebrities like Denzel Washington and others. So really, we try to give kids experiences that they'll never forget.
And speaking of experiences, it seems like the way that you guys have been delivering your services in the clubs and some of those experiences changed a lot in the last 12 months. I mean, I think it was almost a year ago today
Yeah,
when the world stopped.
absolutely. Yeah, I believe this week, we'll be celebrating a year of that. But one thing to note is, we've been around 160 years. So we have always shifted or pivoted to meet the needs of our communities. And, this past year is no different. We've always offered virtual programming, but, now it's 100% of what we're doing and really learning and adding to our elements of our My Future platform and programming, because now we have to reach our kids and connect with them virtually. So also, we started off the pandemic with providing childcare for essential workers, which is something outside of our scope. We are traditionally not a daycare center. We are after school program. So that was definitely a shift and something new we had to adjust at the beginning. And then also now some of our clubs are open all day long supporting schools. So again, we really have shifted in the last 12 months, kind of upping our technology, trying to address some of the gaps. Some of the kids may not have access to Wi-Fi. So now that's why we're open all day so that we can support them so that they won't fall behind in school.
Yeah, and as you change your services, your fundraising goals have probably changed as well. And I would assume I know that we personally helped the local chapter with a couple of virtual events this year, and that were very successful. How is that going this year for you?
Yeah, so all of our fundraising events have become virtual. So we definitely saw the community and America come together to support clubs last year. From a national perspective, we launched the Boys and Girls Club Relief Fund. So that is so the monies can go to clubs all across the nation to support, their at the beginning, they had to cancel all their fundraising events. So we needed to raise the dollars so that they could do that. Now, I would say that all the fundraising events are going well. They're going to continue into 2021. We'll probably reevaluate later in the year for next year. But we are partnering with agencies to help us manage and launch those fundraising events. Even though we have our own platform, we work with agencies so that we can make sure we connect and have the right technologies to run these fundraising events.
Sure. For the other people who are involved with nonprofits who are watching this today, are there any lessons you can share? I mean, you're dealing with 4,700 clubs. I can only imagine how many regions that is. Are
Mhm.
there any major lessons or tips that you would give people who are now forced to do virtual events?
Yeah, so I would say my first tip is to be super flexible. It's a learning process for all of us going through this new virtual stage. I think our very first virtual event that we did last year, there were hiccups. We even had we had to stop the event. So it's just being flexible, and then I think too being able to manage and work with different folks cross functionally to be successful. Messaging is very, very important. And, like you said, we have over 4,700 clubs. So just making sure that we're all on the same page, that we're all pushing out the same messages. So I would say those are kind of like my three top things are to, be flexible and, collaborate with others, and then making sure just everybody's on one accord and have the same messaging.
That's a really good tip. One thing that I learned from it all was that a lot of times when all the budgets were focused on in-person events, you really didn't get a lot of the good video packages. And
Mhm.
now, since we're doing virtual events more, you might end up with 5 or 6 video packages and stories for the virtual event that then can be reutilized and re-edited together all year long on social media to help tell the story about what boys and girls clubs really do.
Yeah. So traditionally in the past, like you said, we've hired, videographers and photographers, and we're able to capture everything that we need for these events. But now, things are different. I think being okay with not having some of the content not having the best quality. So, for example, I'll share our Youth of the Year event is our premier event that we do every year, where we recognize, teens across the country who've overcome several obstacles. And then last year, we weren't able to do individual videos professionally. So we asked all of the teens to send in, video clips of them doing their interviews and, sharing different messages. So really just being okay with that. You have to find new ways to grab content, and then it might not always be the best quality, but it's going to be authentic. And that really worked well with our audience. They understood, and our kids are so resilient. It was new for them too. So a lot of coaching, behind the closed doors, just to make sure everything turned out smoothly.
Right. And that experience of being able to even go through that is probably really great for these kids too, to get them exposure to that and being forced to have to go and produce their own video.
Absolutely. I mean, some of them are probably headed off to college, so it was a great experience for them. And then also we wanted to try to have the best experience for them overall, because they weren't getting the true experience of being on site in front of hundreds of people at the event. So we really tried to just create these experiences and opportunities for them that, they may have felt like they were missing not having on-site events.
One of the things that I've really enjoyed in our support of the Boys and Girls Club here is just learning about all the missions and all of the different services that the Boys and Girls Clubs provide. I one of the things I hear quite a lot is people don't understand all the services that a Boys and Girls Club provides. Do you mind sharing with our audience a little bit of what the Boys and Girls Clubs do and how they
Yeah.
help in the community?
Yeah, so we, as I mentioned earlier, we focus on the whole child. So we feel like focusing on academic success, healthy lifestyles, and good character and citizenship and leadership are the key areas that make a child successful. What success looks like may vary between every child. So, under academic success, we have programs like Raytheon that sponsors our STEM Center of Innovation. So, getting kids, familiar with STEM, maybe sparking their career interest in that. We also offer homework help and tutoring, mentoring. A lot of kids will tell you their favorite part about going to the Boys and Girls Club is because Mr. Billy was there for me. I remember when I first walked into the club and he was the first person that connected with me. Um, Also, we offer leadership programs like Youth of the Year. Again, it's a place for our teens to come together and voice their concerns or find their passions and what they're passionate about. So they might host town halls. We do a big Keystone conference every year. And then on the health side, it's not just about physical activity. So we have partnerships with MLB and the NFL to keep our kids active in the community. We're also focusing on the emotional health of our
Yep.
kids, especially during this time. So we have support groups, and we offer a space for kids to get resources for that. And then also, especially during this time, our clubs are partnering with local agencies to provide meals. So families can come to the club and pick up a box. Before COVID, we always provided meals for our kids in the afternoon. So we're still continuing to do that to make sure our families have that. We have programs called Money Matters, where kids can learn about managing their money. And then we also have Triple Play. That's another health and wellness, again, getting kids active, also getting girls to be more active in all sports. And then everything that we do supports every kid. So a lot of times we have programs that might be tailored to a specific community. We have clubs on native lands where a lot of our programming that we take from the national perspective, and we created and crafted just for Native communities because they are very big on their culture and really integrating those kind of things into the services.
Yeah. I'm
Mhm.
sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
I've just really loved the little things that the Boys and Girls Clubs have done with the kids that I've seen that have been impacted by the clubs. I mean, it's an environment where I think they call them coaches. It's not just like Mr. or Mrs. whoever. It's coach and then their last name. And you can tell that they truly, honestly care about these kids and just the little things like helping them get their homework done every day.
Yeah, I mean, it's as soon as they walk through the door, they like to scan their card and they go to their favorite staff person. Like you said, it could be Coach this or Mrs. this. So I really think that is one of the true gems about a Boys and Girls Club is the people in there that care for these kids and they know. That's why they keep coming back.
Yeah, and the kids are generally more successful than kids who aren't in a Boys and Girls Club, regardless of their demographic. I mean, they've got people that care about them. They're able to do their homework. They've got mentoring and tutoring. I mean, isn't that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I mean, that's why our research shows that the kids that come to the Boys and Girls Clubs, more than 2 or 3 times a week are more likely to be successful. And that is because of all the programming and services that we have to offer. And our goal is to make sure that kid finds what they're passionate about and what they want to achieve in life. And we work with each kid individually to make that happen. So it's not one size fits for everybody. Our staff really take the time to, get with each child and figure out what it is that they want to do in life.
That's great. And speaking of staff, we mentioned the size of the organization that you manage, right? So you've got 4,700 clubs that are all may or may not have someone in charge of their particular communications, like for like let's say a grand opening where some philanthropist or benefactor is going to get a club named after them, right? So those are all individual efforts. And you talked about the consolidation of messaging. How does someone like you manage an organization that's that large?
Yeah, so I think it's all about building great relationships. So I have really taken the time to get to know our local clubs. Some of them have PR professionals that I can, really work directly with, but others don't. Some are really small, and mine only have a small full-time staff where the CEO is the fundraiser, the CEO, the program director. So really just making sure you have those good messages. We also have a lot of communications, internal communication channels that we use to get the message out and stay in communication and making sure everybody's aligned. Most of the time, our local clubs are doing things locally, so it's a lot easier. But when we have national initiatives, we're all working together to make sure that they just have the right communications and that we're all on the same page.
Yeah, and I would say you Boys and Girls Clubs is probably how does it rank in terms of the size of nonprofits nationally? It's got to be up there in the top 10.
So we like to say that we are the largest youth serving organization, 4.6 million kids a year. And then also we like to say, we most likely have a Boys and Girls Club in your neighborhood. So we have a club, I believe, in every congressional district. And then we also have clubs that are on US military installations worldwide too.
That's fantastic. And how do you see the clubs evolving as we continue to move through and hopefully get out of this pandemic?
Yeah, so I mean, I mentioned earlier that clubs are now open all day. Will that remain as we get out of this pandemic? Probably. Is it something that might be a new model for us in the future? We don't know. But I definitely see us continuing to do that. And then also, we're really going to be continuing to invest heavily on the technology side and remaining virtual with everything that we do. We really need to keep in touch and connect with our kids and give them the resources that they need because I don't see us being fully, being able to support all kids like we have in the past, anytime soon.
Yeah, well, who knows? Maybe with the virtual tools, we can support even more kids.
Well, yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you an example. Last year, we held our teen conference over the summer once we figured out, okay, we're really in this thing. So we got to figure something out. So last year was the very first time in 70 something years that the Keystone Conference was open to all teens in America. So that was new for us. We got new, I'm sure we received feedback from local clubs that they got new membership from that opportunity. And that was the first time we went out with a big PR announcement too in advance of the conference, because like I said, it's always been for the club members. And last year we were able to reach new audiences and invite all teams.
Well, yeah, I think you just hit on it. So that was obviously a big effort that you were involved in. Could you explain to us a little bit about what the process looks like of rolling out such a big national program like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we, with at Boys and Girls Clubs of America, we have a team that is an integrated marketing team. So all of us are social, PR, internal communications. From the brand side, we work with our youth development team to put on that Keystone Conference. So they'll manage the registration and things like that. But from a PR perspective, this was new for us. Typically, when we have the event on site, we may have certain moments where we invite media to, and really only local media. So we use this as an opportunity to share, what our teams are doing across the country during the pandemic. That was kind of like my PR strategy. We sent out a press announcement that included our sponsors and some of our celebrity that were engaged with that, and then offered media interviews to teams. we found that to be more effective. Media was really interested in, speaking with teens specifically about, what they're passionate about, how they're managing COVID. And so that was kind of the strategy that I used this year. So we sent the release out in advance, also offered up some, you know, offered up interviews in advance of the conference before the announcement, so exclusive to media.
That's great. So this is a question I didn't prepare you for, but I know you work with a lot of really great celebrities. You know, a lot of times we see Shaquille O'Neal, Jennifer Lopez involved in Boys and Girls Club projects. Do you have any favorites? Do you have any celebrities that you just are so happy that you got to work with them, or that they just do such an amazing thing for the clubs?
I have my top 5. It's hard to pick one, but definitely, I was just telling somebody the other day, we were reminiscing about an event. Kelly Rowland has been an absolute favorite to work with. Denzel, of course, and then my buddy Shaq. I mean, he's just a lot of fun, as you can assume. So when we do events with him, he just has such great energy. And of course, the kids are going nuts.
Right.
And then last year for our Youth of the Year event, I did a virtual tour with Missy Copeland. So she is just amazing to work with. She, all of them credit the club for getting them, where they are. But I would say those are kind of my top 4 right there.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, Ashley, where can people find out more about what you're up to and follow your thought leadership as well as the clubs?
Yeah, so if you would like to follow me on Twitter at akeys, KEYES, PR, you can find me on Twitter. You can follow Boys and Girls Clubs, BGCA_clubs on Instagram and Twitter. And then, of course, Boys and Girls Clubs of America on Facebook and LinkedIn. If you would like more information about Boys and Girls Clubs, you can visit bgca.org. And also there you can find a club near you to see how you can get involved with your local club in your community. As I mentioned, there's most likely a club within a 20-mile radius of where you are. And you can also find that on our website.
Yeah, and we highly recommend it. It's one of the organizations where you can see a tangible difference in the giving and the programs that are being done there. So we're huge fans again of the Boys and Girls Club. Well, Ashley, thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll hope to have you back soon in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.